I'm here with Kevin Jones, who is running in the Republican primary for 2nd District Congress, and let's get right to it, if that's okay with you. And I know you served in the post-9/11 military.
I did.
So I wanted to ask you this question in particular, which intrigued me, is that the trade machinations going on, Canada was listed by the president under national security concerns. And I looked it up, and the Canadians were in Afghanistan for 12 years. 159 Canadians died after 9/11 in Afghanistan. So what do you think of Canada being listed as our longtime friend under that national security rubric with trade?
Well, I appreciate the question, first of all. And yeah, and I've actually, when I was in first group up in Fort Lewis McChord, one of the things that I have, we don't wear them all the time, but one of the things I have is Canadian jump wings, because I was airborne, I was jump master, and we jumped with the Canadians. And so we have a relationship with them two different ways. First of all, a rapport relationship with Canada, but secondly, I mean, they're neighbors. We have the same border. So whether it's Mexico, whether it's our southern border or our northern border, anytime when you talk about America itself, we have to be very careful to realize that we are the country that and outside of that country, whether it's North Canadian or a southern Mexico, that at all times we're still going to have to defend ourselves. We're going to make sure our borders are closed and that everything's secure. So, like it or not, we have to keep security. So when you talk about Canada, we have a good relationship with Canada, but they are right there on our border. So we have to always keep lines open, make sure that security is strong.
I'm going to stay a little bit on the topic of trade. The 2nd District, as you well know,
yes,
has a lot of farmers. And soybeans, for example, is a big product, excuse me.
Yes, it is.
What do you say to farmers in the 2nd District who might be a little apprehensive about
Absolutely.
a possible trade war?
Well, and I've had the opportunity to travel and talk to farmers too. And what I found, because I always ask the same question, where are you at on this trade thing? Or they'll ask me, where are you at on this trade thing? And we're in a unique situation where manufacturing and trade are almost playing against each other, where we've been losing out on manufacturing, but we're doing good on our ag. The trouble is that, well, when President Trump has come forward and begin to, well, try and get rid of the deficit, I don't think there's anybody that I've talked to, farmers that like to be taken advantage of as a nation. We don't want $800 billion in the negative with our trade. And so the fact that President Trump said that he was going to fight this and is fighting it, people respect that. And so many of the farmers I've talked to, they don't like the unpredictability in the actual market. Nobody would, because it's hurting them where it's at, especially since I represent ethanol plant down in Garnett, currently as a state representative. It's a big deal. We want to make sure that that it's predictable and we're getting our money's worth, yet at the same time we don't want to be taken advantage of as a nation. And so we're seeing some comeback in manufacturing, yet at the same time it needs to be predictable for our farmers.
I have some mailers here from 2010. You can see.
That was before I was even in politics.
Yeah, and they're from Lynn Jenkins, and they concern the debt. And I brought them just to sort of point out that the concern about the debt has been going on for a long time. And during the time of the concern, the debt's been going up. I think it's now $21 trillion. So, does the debt matter? And also for the 2nd District voters, they've been watching this a while. How should they be skeptical of any candidate who says that they'll be able to do something about the debt, or where do we stand with that?
Absolutely, they should be skeptical, because what you're going to find, I don't even think it matters which side of the aisle that you're on. People are going to say, yeah, we need to quell this debt, we need to stop the deficit spending. The truth of the matter is, I have 8 children. We just had our 8th about 2 weeks ago. And as I hold wit, I think about what I'm passing on to him. And this is where I've seen since 2010 and before that how everybody says, yes, we're going to quell the debt, we're going to stop this deficit spending, we're going to start bringing it back in, and we haven't done it yet. And there's certain things out there like defense spending that people really want, yet at the same time, somewhere, somehow, somebody has to put their foot down. And that's what I'm doing in this race. My desire in running for Congress is to actually be one of those people who comes in and says, yeah, we're going to curb the national debt. We're going to stop the deficit spending and put our foot down, because I cannot pass that on to my children. I just can't. It's time to stop.
Are there any specific programs you've identified, or are you going to get to Congress and then start focusing on it?
You know, one of the things that I am very passionate about, and well, I have to say this. One hit me sideways just in this last bill where they were $1,000 car allowance for leasing cars. Seriously? And this is congressmen and women that gave themselves $1,000 car allowance. That's one way that we can stop that. I drive a little Geo Metro 96, 45 miles per gallon. You know, better gas mileage than a Prius out on the street or out on the road. They get better in town, obviously. But the point is that that's just one place that we can start. Another is Planned Parenthood. I mean, there's certain places that we can just defund, and it would be fantastic. But ultimately, I think that the biggest thing that you need to ask, people need to ask themselves is, how will this person handle our money? How will this person handle our money? And I think when you're in the ballot box or in the voting booth and you're voting, you have to look, how is this person going to handle their money, our money? And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
On a video on your YouTube page, on your launch video,
yeah,
you said you thought there was a disconnect between real life out here,
yeah,
or in Kansas, and politicians in Washington. One topic I wondered if that disconnect occurred is the opioid epidemic, where in small towns, literally some of them thousands of people are overdosing. Here's
yeah,
a statistic: since 2000, 183,000 people have died,
mm-hmm,
which is remarkable. So why do you think this is happening? Is that something that Congress can do something about or try to stem?
Well, great question. Really, it goes back to insecurity. You know, there's a lot of insecurity today, whether it's debt, and if you just simply look at it, and I'm not trying to oversimplify, but if you simply look at it, when people get way high in debt, they start looking for other things, and maybe to escape. So you start seeing substance abuse, you start seeing mental health issues, and this is where it hits them. I also currently represent Osawatomie State Hospital, and so in our mental health system, oh my goodness, we're getting hit so hard. And I've talked to the sheriffs, and that's where it falls back on our law enforcement. So it's all kind of falling back on each other. But ultimately, when you said there's a disconnect, I truly believe that goes back to just servant leaders. I think that there's a misunderstanding that when we offer ourselves to run for an office, that we're trying to aspire to go to a higher level. But I truly believe that when I offer myself, I'm offering myself for a lower position. Somebody said that we put the president at the top of a pyramid, at the top of and by putting the president up there, it's like a hierarchy, and he's like almost a king. But ultimately, we need to flip that pyramid upside down. Whoever is the greatest among us is truly the servant of all, and then the people at the top are the ones who are ruling the country ultimately. And so whoever is asking to serve is asking for the lowest position. And so that's what I ultimately am saying. We bring those Main Street values to Congress.
We have time for one more question, and the 2nd District, to me, is very interesting. The voters voted for Donald Trump pretty decisively, and yet 2 years earlier, the voters in the 2nd District voted for Paul Davis, a Democrat, over Sam Brownback, again by 6 points. So an interesting district. Where do you fit in a district that possibly in some elections does vote Democratic? How do you fit in and argue that you're the person for this district?
Well, in my current district, the 5th district, it's the same makeup as the entire 2nd district, which is, the majority is not Republican. It isn't. The majority is Democrat and undecided. And so, and I won in that same election year. Lynn Jenkins won by 12 points. I won by 11 points against Brownback, and we both would have beat Davis. And so the real question is who can win in this district in the general from the Republican side. And I win the same way that Lynn Jenkins wins, and that is, it's just being civil and reasonable and talking to the people and listening to people. And ultimately, having in your background experiences that have proven you as basically a selfless servant. I come before the people and I offer, I say, I would like to serve you in Congress. It's not my desire to be the greatest, it's my desire to be the least among you, and I would ultimately hope that that they would choose the right person that would serve, listen, serve, and ultimately keep their word.
All right. Well, reminder for everybody to vote August 7th, and thanks so much, Kevin, for joining us.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you, Bob.
Sure.